Hey there, nerdpreneurs. Welcome back to Market Like a Nerd. And get ready to geek out with me because today I'm joined by Easy Webinar founder Casey Zeman, or Zeman. Whoop, whoop. Hey, Casey. Welcome to Nerdpreneur Nation.
Hey, Amanda. Good to be here. I'm excited to talk to the nerdpreneurs. That's a cool word to say.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
All right, we are so stoked to have you. Now, for everyone who is listening, today we are talking about the automated webinar funnel that generates $3K per day, coming to you from the founder of Easy Webinar. I mean, come on, guys, you can't get better than that. So first, let me tell you a little bit more about Casey, and then we'll talk about his tips for generating automated webinars that make you loads of cash.
Yeah.
Casey Zeman is the best-selling author of Build Your Audience with Live Video, the founder of the webinar platform Easy Webinar, a software that does both live and automated webinars, and the new Periscope analytic and marketing software Fullscope.tv. With over 6,000 Easy Webinar customers and thousands of Fullscope users, Casey has figured out what works and what doesn't in the way of webinars, live broadcasts, video, and what truly makes an audience engage. He's also consulted with such companies as HarperCollins, Estee Lauder, and Dell on video marketing strategies and lead nurture funnels using webinars. Having built his own seven-figure software and info product business through the power of live video and webinars, he's passionate about bringing these same strategies to you. There we go. Woo!
Yes, you did it. Yes. Nice.
All right, guys, that's the overview of his story and biography, but I want you to get to know the real Casey. So before we dive into the meat of today's episode, let's have some fun. Casey, are you ready?
This feels like an Iron Chef or something. Yeah, okay, I'm ready.
All right, you have a twin brother, Jeremy, right? Do you guys ever switch places?
Yes.
How do
you know that? Wait a minute.
How do I know if I'm talking to Casey or Jeremy right now?
That's a very good question. Right, Jeremy? Shh, don't say me. No, so Jeremy is in Chicago. I live in LA. And yes, we have switched places before. I think it was like fourth grade. We've switched like classes a couple times because like I was supposed to take like this history class or history test, and my brother already took it and he aced it. So I swapped and took his music class, and he took my history test for me. And we probably did that a couple times. And we did one prank on our girlfriends at one point, a very PG prank.
Right.
It was completely PG. We were out at dinner, and we went to the bathroom, and I changed my hair to look like him, and he changed his to look like mine. And then we sat next to our respective girlfriends, and my girlfriend started playing with my brother's hair, and I got so mad on the other end of the table. I was like, "Fine, that's not me. You can't tell that's me." And I ran out of the restaurant. So I like flipped it on her, right? Like clearly she should be mad at me. I was the one that was irritated. That's stupid.
That's hilarious. Oh my God, I like you so much more now.
Cool. Yeah, but that was pretty much it. I mean, we did go to college together, but we didn't end up really changing any classes at that point. People knew us at that point. Like we look relatively different. His hair is a little shorter than mine. Mine's a little longer.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you also have a baby girl. And
yeah, I'm actually holding a pacifier.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you are. That's hilarious.
I had an earlier interview, and I literally was feeding her, or I had her in a Bjorn while I was doing my earlier interview, because I was like, I screwed up my schedule. The nanny couldn't come in time. So I was like, so I was actually, this could have been you guys, but
I would not have minded. So you have a baby girl, and you're adopting two boys from Haiti.
Yes.
It sounds like you like kids. So my question is, why?
Why do you like children? Yeah. I mean, that's valid, because if you don't have kids, then you may not like kids.
I have them, and it's still
you have them.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that I like kids is because all of my first child is 3 months old. If you have older children, you probably are like, I've been there, I'm done, right? So I get that. How old are your kids?
2 and 8.
Okay.
2 and 8 year old. 2 and 8 years older than I want them to be.
2 and 8 years old.
I'm teasing Alex and Blake. I love you guys. All right, Casey, because you were on Life, and I literally can't look at you and not see your scene in Life. Dude, did you also eat apples incessantly after watching that show? Because I totally did.
Apples? Did we eat apples in the episode?
The main character, he would not stop eating apples every
Damian Lewis, right? He just ate apples all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. He's the guy in Billions. If you guys remember if you watch that show, he's the guy in Billions. Yeah, that was definitely an interesting episode that we did. So the context is, I started off as an actor. I went to school for music and theater. I trained in opera, and then I did music theater in different cities like Chicago, New York, and then you came out here for pilot season one year and liked it and stuck around. So we've been here for a while, and my brother was living here for a while too, and so we were going out for things together, and that was one of the jobs that we did when I was doing more acting. But I love acting, but it's not a consistent paycheck, even when you're kind of a professional actor. And I always liked to be able to control my own destiny.
Yeah.
And acting kind of puts you in a box. Like a lot of things that you find out there, you are pigeonholed into a process that they control. And if you can kind of step outside of that and start controlling your process yourself, you can do anything. And for me, I needed to step into what I'm doing now to be able to see that if I did want to go back to acting, I wouldn't do the traditional model of the box. You have to step outside the box and do something disruptive to be able to get found and get seen and get heard. And that's, the same with being online. I mean, same concepts apply.
That's so interesting. And I'm glad that you told me that, because I keep telling my husband, I'm like, I would be such a good actress. I need to get on TV.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing, like when someone sees somebody on TV, they're like, oh my God, that person's famous. But chances are, they're living in an apartment here in LA, and they got paid maybe one time for an episode, or, maybe 3 episodes of a show, or even if they get on a season, that's still 1 season, 2 seasons. I have a good friend who had her own TV show and got canceled after 4 years. And now she's not sure what she's doing now, right? So there's always that thing. It's always greener on the other side. My thing, if I had to impress any sense of wisdom around this, not that I have any wisdom at all about it, but if I could do anything, it would be create your own projects, create something you love. And if you want to be someone in the entertainment world or doing something like that, do it yourself first. Create your own platform of people that like the energy that you bring. Create a YouTube channel, do something like that, because ultimately I think that's going to also get you in the door, because you are not reliant on them. And when you're not reliant, you don't ooze that need to get in front of them, like things like that. So anyway.
Well, I'm glad that you found your way into the online world and that you created your platform, Easy Webinar, because that is how I found you, and you are awesome. So I'm excited to share you with everyone. So,
thank you.
Yeah, that was fun. Super interesting. We got to get down to business though. Okay. So,
okay. Good.
Casey, you told me that you were going to share with us today about your automated funnel that generates $3,000 per day. And I know that you have some clients on your Easy Webinar platform who even make like $20,000 a day, like crazy amounts of money using these webinar funnels and this software that you've created. So can you get a little OCD with us and break it down into your 3 to 5 main steps or tips that you have for us today?
Yeah. So first off, for those who don't know, an automated webinar is essentially a webinar that can stream in real time without you having to be there. So you take your perfect show and you can stream it out, and it plays in real time. People come to it. They can watch it. They can ask questions. You have offers that can pop up, but you're sitting at home, maybe responding to people on your phone, or maybe you're, off skydiving. I always say skydiving over the Galapagos Islands. That's my favorite thing to say. But it's really difficult to probably, respond to a message that's coming from one of your automated webinars and skydive at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Never tried it.
I'd imagine so.
Right. Wouldn't know. I don't know the internet speed up there. But that's effectively what an automated webinar is. And so it's the concept of it is that it's leverages your time more. And the people that use our system, we have over actually 7,000 customers that use Easy Webinar. And most of them are experts, authors, coaches, consultants. We have people that are in the financial space. We have people that essentially use automated webinars and live webinars for many different things. One example is there's an HR company that uses our system to essentially have their new employees or trainees come through a training that they can make sure they're seeing, because our system and an automated webinar, a good one anyway, allows you to see how much someone watches a webinar. You can see the actions performed during the webinar, and so you can really gauge what people are doing. And so that's one way we have a company that's not sort of in the internet marketing space using the platform.
Yeah, I know. I was actually just at a mastermind retreat last week, and one of the members was sharing that her client who uses Easy Webinar is in the real estate space, and she has an automated webinar funnel that's generating her $10,000 of passive income every single month.
That's all. Yeah. I have another person that just reached out to me, a yoga instructor. She's actually on my Facebook page. She's doing about the same, $10,000 a month. And she's using an automated webinar one-time event. So you have to understand that there's different ways to create automated webinars. And it's all inside my brain, but it's all inside the software too. You can create one-time events that are kind of like live webinars, but you're just not there. Or you can create what are known as evergreen webinars. And evergreen webinars are events that can stream every single day. At any point when someone comes to the page, it's going to show the next available time. They can be streamed in both your attendees' local time zone. So if you're coming in Central Time, you come to one of our pages, it's going to show 11 o'clock Central. If I come to the page, it's going to show 11 o'clock Pacific Standard, right? So it's going to stream out based on the local attendees' time. And as the admin, you can stream it out multiple times during the day. You can decide when someone comes to the registration page to not let them register for a same-day webinar. They have to register for a future webinar into the future, but it still is automated. So there's a lot of different scheduling options.
Now, I'm curious about this because I've always wondered about this, because there are some people in this industry who I really admire, and they do it. There are different ways that they do it. Like, I think Russell Brunson, the way that he does it is you can watch it on demand or you can schedule it. Taki Morhi, I think it is, or maybe it's even John Lee Dumas, where they do it like a set time every single solitary week. And then there's people like Russ Ruffino, who I think you've been on a summit with before, and he does it where it's every hour on the hour. Have you found that there's a certain one that works better than the other, or a certain case or scenario in which you might want one or the other?
So, we actually set up John Lee Dumas's automated webinars, right?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and when he was doing them consistently, he was streaming them out, and this is kind of the Amy Porterfield sort of template as well. They would block a day. So that means when someone comes to the registration page, they couldn't register for that same day. They'd have to register for the next day. And the way Amy does it, and John, is you can register for 3 times for the next day, right? So it's not that same day. You can't register and watch a webinar on the same day. Now, the reason they do that is because they want to take that first couple emails to create sort of authority and create a nurture prior to the event starting. And we have found that for certain people that works really, really well. John, they tested out actually trying the in-time registration, where as soon as you come to the page, it's going to show that an event's going to start in the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? Our software allows you to schedule a webinar up to every 15 minutes. So, for instance, it's 11:27 a.m. my time. At 11:30 is when the next webinar would show up, right? Because it shows every 15-minute increments. If I came to an Easy Webinar page at 11:31 and I had that feature activated, it would show me 11:45 as the next time to sign up. So we have that capability. You can also schedule it every 30 minutes or an hour as well. I know I'm holding the Patsy, so
I'm trying not to laugh at it.
Sorry about that. It's like it's my prop. I have to hold it. I'm just acting like my baby's here right now. But I won't put it in my mouth. Don't worry. Okay, that would just be the weirdest part. So what we've found is that it's working for some and not working for others. So John Lee Dumas, it wasn't really working for them to do the in-time registration, right?
Yeah.
It's been better for them to schedule in the future. And so I think it really all depends on the medium and the audience. I think that if it's super cold traffic, sometimes with super cold traffic, it's good to set it in the future so that you can create a little nurture prior to the event starting. Now, here's another.
I wonder if it also might be impacted by what you're pitching on the webinar too, because there are certain things that are sort of more low barrier to entry and a little bit easier to pitch to colder traffic, and then other things that, it helps if they know, like, and trust you before you pitch it, because it's a higher barrier to entry offer. So depending upon what you're pitching, that might also impact whether you would have them show up right away or give them that time to do the nurturing.
Here's a really good little tip here. If you're going to do Facebook ads, and you want to know, how to like build a nurture how to build a nurture effectively the right way. Do you do a Facebook ad straight to a registration page? We have a lot of clients that do it and it works. And the majority of them close the clients on the upsell, or not the upsell, on the follow-up. Mm-hmm. So even if they don't consume the webinar, they have a good enough campaign to where, like, let's say they register for a webinar that's starting in real time and someone doesn't watch it. Well, a follow-up email will go out and say, hey, it looks like you registered, but you didn't actually show up to the webinar. Here's a link to re-register. We're streaming it again. And all that link does is takes them right back to the registration page, and they now sign up for a different time slot, right? We see that's a part of a funnel that works really well with a lot of people. Neil Patel uses that same particular follow-up. So you're not always sending those who registered to the replay. You're sending those who registered but didn't show to re-register, and then those who did show up can get to the replay. Right. And those who didn't show up at all, right? Well, yeah, those who didn't show up at all would have to re-register. Yeah. So there's two elements. Everybody's going to register, but whether they show up or not, you send them back through to re-register or send them to the replay. That really works well. Instead of just sending someone straight to a replay, we call that the rebroadcast, right? Or encore presentation, or because it's still an automated webinar. So technically, you're not having to do anything. Inside Easy Webinar, you schedule it for in time. You're just sending them back to that same registration page later on in a follow-up email that you have inside of our system or inside of your own autoresponder. So because we integrate with Aweber, MailChimp, Infusionsoft, Constant Contact, Ontraport, Drip, ActiveCampaign, GetResponse, and ConvertKit. And those ones that have the tagging systems, ConvertKit, Drip, Infusionsoft, Ontraport, and ActiveCampaign, you can trigger actions through Easy Webinar that will start campaigns in those platforms that are based on the actions performed during the webinar. So like, okay, I see that they registered because that tag was clicked, right? Okay, registered. But there's also this tag that shows that they didn't show up. So I'm going to send a campaign to them that says, hey, it looks like you didn't show up, re-register. Whereas these people registered, they also came to the webinar. I'm going to put them on a different track and send them into the replay directly. Right.
You're segmenting them based on the actions that they took on the webinar.
Exactly.
So I got you a little off topic. This is super interesting, but I want to weave this, circle this back to the original case study. So you said you have this funnel that's generating you $3,000 per day on for your business. Can you walk us through what that particular funnel looks like? So what are the steps that funnel is using? What offer? I'm really curious about this, is because most people who talk automated webinars, they talk about going into a phone call. I'm curious if that's what you're doing or if it's going into a sales page. Can you just walk us through that funnel?
Well, actually, ours is so when I told you that there's a 3K a day funnel, my 3K a day funnel is a little bit different. We have we have a we have a 4 video series that we send people through, followed up by an automated webinar that then close sales on the automated webinar. So
Interesting.
we do what we call a cross-pollination campaign. So we take people first through a nurture sequence of videos that then give them the opportunity. Hey, by the way, if you want to streamline or get more information or get there faster, here's a workshop you can sign up for.
So you
on the workshop,
send traffic to this 4-part video series first. They consume those 4 videos. I imagine just every day you send out a different video. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like every 2 days. Yeah.
Okay. And then once the video series is over, then you promote the webinar to them?
We do that, but we also like into email or day 3, we start to have the link for the webinar.
In the videos.
So it's like in the videos. So it's an additional option for people to come in to get access to the stream workshop that's performed.
Okay,
yeah.
So you send traffic, they sign up for the videos. Video 1 comes out 2 days later, video 2, 2 days later, video 3. In video 3, you start introducing the webinar.
Yeah.
Video 4, I imagine you do the same thing. You promote the webinar, and then you promote the webinar once the series is over?
Yeah, so the series actually, video 4 promotes the same offer, but the webinar, but what we find is we get more sales off of the webinar. So, so the reason we do both is because different people are going to sign up for a different medium of use, right? And so that's one step, right? That they can come to a workshop from the 4 video series. The other thing is if they don't buy from the 4 videos or the workshop, we send them into another automated webinar in the sequence that sends them into a course where it teaches them about webinars. So if we use this as an opportunity to sell a software, we use this as an opportunity to sell a course, right? And so that's another sort of funnel that we bring people into from there as well. So that funnel works very well. But when I was speaking on the 3K funnel, I was more so referring to different clients that use our system. Okay. We have people that are using our system for 3K a day, where it's literally they are using it and they're using it on a consulting funnel. But we have people that are also doing 20K a day. People like Amy Porterfield and stuff like that, using it to where they started a low-hanging fruit offer on an automated webinar and then sell on a second automated webinar a higher offer. And that's effectively what we are doing in our own personal funnels as well. But so here's a good funnel for coaches and consultants. If you guys are coaches and consultants out there, First I will say this, that I still want to mention where the in-time registration is going to be okay. Is if you can offer some sort of early sort of freebie, right, before you offer the webinar, that gets them excited and engaged to where then they want to come into the webinar and then come into the workshop. So
with Easy Webinar, are you able to, and I'll explain why I'm asking this in just a moment, but with Easy Webinar, are you able to customize the countdown page? So after people opt in, when they're waiting for the webinar to start, there's usually a countdown. Are you able to customize it?
Yeah, you can add a video. We have social share features on that page where if people share, it unlocks a free gift, and we see that 10 to 15% more people tend to sign up because of that. We also see people, I've tested this myself, and we see people that use it as an opportunity to sell a one-time offer on the thank you page, and it covers their ad spend sometimes. So
the reason why I was asking is because with one of my automated webinar funnels once before, I tested sending them to a different thank you page for for that purpose of, nurturing them before they actually came to the just-in-time webinar. And what I found happened was it completely blew my show-up rate, that when I sent them to the countdown page first, that it's
that second step. it's the second step, right?
Yeah.
They didn't do the second step.
But I could totally see it the way that you're describing it. Like if they shared, then they got the gift, or if you could edit the countdown page. I don't think I could with what I was using. But if you could edit the countdown page to have it on there, it would kill two birds with one stone. You wouldn't bomb your show up rate, and you'd still get to nurture them before the webinar.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tough part of it. When you take them to a thank you page, there's a link at the bottom of the thank you page saying this is the link that sends you into the webinar. Mm-hmm. The video has to be compelling enough on your thank you page to where almost you take up the time before the webinar starts. So if you can be like, okay, this is, this webinar, thank you for coming. You're going to want to you show up to this webinar, you're on the thank you page. This is not where you access the webinar. Where you access the webinar is through this link below. And when you do, you're automatically going to be getting this free gift that I'm going to have for you right away, a workbook when you show up to the webinar, as well as, X, Y, and Z, right? Again, you won't want to miss this. You want to block out your calendar. Be sure to show up. Click that link to come onto the page. That will take you to a countdown page prior to the event starting. When that countdown hits 0, that's when the event starts. Mm-hmm. Now, if you leave this page, we have emails that are also going out to you. So when you click on those emails, you'll be able to come into this countdown page as well. All right. So I think you have to really explain what the process is, because you're right, it can kill it. So what we tend to notice is, people are really busy. So if you can nurture them ahead of time with even simple, like let's say you write a blog article about their biggest pain point, and you shine a light on some of the things they didn't even realize about their pain point. Mm-hmm. And then you have a free gift, maybe a simple, downloadable, digestible PDF that shares quick tips on what their biggest pain points are. From that download, you can then have, hey, if you want to learn more, there's a streaming workshop you can attend. Here's the link. You can have it in the PDF. You can then also retarget those people that came to the blog article, that registered for that freebie, and retarget them with signing up for the webinar from Facebook from that point. And we find that when you can take someone through that process, through a nurture of some kind where your authority is built up somewhat, we find you're going to get more people showing up to the webinar. That's why we tend to do our 4 video series first, because even if they miss 1 or 2 of the videos, it still builds a level of authority, and then they can consume the webinar. So they do their due diligence. They see why they learn something of value from the video series. And then they want to come into the workshop. But I was going to mention one of the things is that one of the mistakes I made early on is I made a really, really great 4 video series, spent $25,000 on production. And I found that I probably didn't need to spend that much on a 4 video series prior to bringing someone into a webinar. In fact, I probably could have done a blog article, a PDF, and a simple video, or even a Facebook live video, where I didn't have to shoot it, walking in the streets of LA, or doing any cool stuff. I could have just done it that way, save myself a lot of money, because people more so buy from my webinar than they do off of my video series. Mm-hmm. So the video series is good for, I guess, getting them excited about it, or positioning me as an authority, but there's other ways to position you as an authority, So I don't know. There was that's really interesting, and I kind of the reason why I'm enjoying this is because I have been doing it backwards, where I do the automated webinars, and then I've been sending them into the video. Yes, thank you. Could not get that word out. The video series. And same sort of thing. I see that the most of the sales come from the webinars and they do from the video series, but I am interested to see how it might affect my funnel if I flipped it the way that you did. Yeah. I'll do it, and I'll let you know how it goes, because it's really interesting, the theme that I'm sensing from this, because we've talked about some of these different components of the webinar, but it seems like the heart of making this work
is making sure that you don't just get any old traffic into the webinar. You get nurtured traffic that's ready to buy from you, that they're in the mindset that they see you as an authority and they're ready to buy from you, because that's when it's not just going to get them to show up, but it's going to get them to show up excited, and it's going to increase your conversions. That's the big message that I'm getting from this.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So when you send people into a in-time webinar where it like starts right away, the problem with that is, a lot of people that use that way of doing it, they generally don't sell off of those webinars, because the thing is, you're not building enough nurture ahead of time. So selling off those webinars can be somewhat difficult. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have. And we've had probably a 2 or 3% conversion, which is actually not that bad on a 1K product. But actually on a 2K product, it was like 0.5. On a 1K product, it was like 3. And that was using in-time, the in-time sort of webinar scheduling. But normally people aren't selling off of those. They are getting them on a strategy call or having them fill out an application. Right. And those work well, but then you're faced with the point of now you're selling people on a sales call, and that takes time, and what I've noticed just from what feedback we've heard is that when you do it that way without a level of nurture ahead of time, your conversions selling people into programs, coaching programs from a phone call, the conversions are not as high. Right. So it
ends up being a numbers game where you have to get tons and tons of calls in order to hit the revenue goals, versus if you just had quality traffic to begin with, you wouldn't have to talk to as many people in order to make the money that you want to make. Yeah, if you can narrow down the audience, or narrow the scope by creating more nurture. By the time they come to the webinar, they already know you, they've done some due diligence, and now they're ready to come on through. One of the best advice. Casey, you're going to make me go crazy with testing when this is over. What did you do to me? I know, I'm so sorry. No, I'm a nerd. I love it. I mean, that's great, because sometimes it annoys the crap out of me. No, you're getting me excited. Look at you. Okay, that's good. I'm glad. But yeah, no, I mean, in fact, I would almost test out a couple different front end funnels, and bring people in that way too. Like a PDF, and then after the PDF, send them into maybe a quick video. From the video, invite them into the webinar. I mean, there's a lot. Another nerdy question. So you mentioned, and you might not know the answer off the top of your head, and that's okay, but you mentioned that without a nurture sequence, just going straight into the just-in-time webinar, pitching like a $2,000 offer, you had like a 0.3 or 0.5 conversion. Do you know what the difference is if you have something on the front end nurturing them, what the difference is? Yeah, so I have not actually tweaked to change that yet for that particular offer. So I know that offer would do better if I brought them in through a nurture sequence, because it's selling better, because now it's actually on the back end of a 4-video series. So take some 4-video series, they get onto an automated webinar that sells software, but then if they don't buy the software, they can get into the program, and that sells because people are already coming through and are nurtured through the 4-video series. Right. So technically, it would work if I tweaked my Facebook ads to where instead of bringing them into directly to the webinar with my little ads that were performing okay, I'd probably get a higher lead conversion if I sent them to a blog that spoke about the pain, offered a freebie, something consumable very quick, and then follow-up sequence of join me on the webinar. That probably would perform a little better, because it would narrow down how many people come through, but it would also nurture people to where they probably want to sign up for the webinar. So no, I have not tested that. All I've tested is a price change to where we saw an increase to about 3% to a just-in-time webinar when we changed that around. So that's pretty huge. It's a $1,000 price difference. So it did make a difference in that regard. But I have to tweak that one
change it around, because every day you don't have something like that on, you're just losing money.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to think like that. You're like, well, it's not money.
You have to promise us that once you finish testing it, you're going to come back
Yeah.
and tell us how it went.
I will. I'll let you know. Yeah, that's I mean, I have that webinar somewhere. And because, you know, we're on Skype, so I guess I could even show you sort of what that one looks like, if you wanted me to.
So,
but you can't. I mean, yeah.
Podcast people won't be able to see it. Video people will. But maybe what we could do is we could leave a link to it in the comments.
That sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, I think if we do that, then people could, then not just you or me or the people watching the video, but other people could. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
okay.
But this is what it looks like. I am actually showing you right now, but we'll send it off to people so they can actually see it as well. So here, I'll stop sharing my screen, and we'll push on. Okay. So yeah, so those are some of the elements that I would suggest when doing an automated webinar. Use, you know, to recap, I think if you're going to do scheduling that is right away, where they can come to the page and it starts, you know, in the next 5 minutes, try to have some sort of nurture and maybe put that on the back end. Mm-hmm. Okay. But if you're going to go straight to Facebook ads to a webinar, consider blocking the days by 1 or 2 days, mm-hmm. and use the opportunity that now you have them on a list, give them a freebie right off of that you talk about on the registration page, or even from your Facebook ad, right? Say, well, you're going to sign up, you're going to get the free PDF plus video on how to do this, right? You can actually do that right from the registration page. On the thank you page, you can offer the free gift. You can have a video that kind of talks about what they're going to want to know about the webinar. In that video, you can actually use some like authority seating, where, you know, say, hey, this is Casey again, and just want to let you know my passion has always been to help people such as yourselves to be able to build your own business, use the power of engagement and automation to scale your business to heights that you've never dreamed of. We've worked with yada, yada, yada. So there's an opportunity to do some sort of authority seating prior to the webinar starting. And that is if you're sending Facebook traffic directly to a webinar like that, you're probably going to see a higher close ratio. Mm-hmm. By doing it that way.
Oh my
compared
gosh,
to the other one.
I just got such a good idea talking to you. What if I had Facebook ad traffic go to the webinar, but it wasn't a just in time. It started like a day or two after, and in the meantime, I sent them to a video that went through a case study, and it was like a case study of what can happen or what happened with my clients, and then it walks them through that case study. But then if they want to know the steps, then they have to come to the webinar. Like, this is what the webinar is going to be teaching you, and here's an example of this in action.
Here's one that I did before. I actually did a webinar where I sent to a thank you page, and from the thank you page, I told them that the webinar was going to start. I said, if you go to the countdown page, I have another video on the countdown page for you, and you can hear stories of customer people just like you who are having success with webinars. They go there. I have my reel. I have my and so I kind of look at that as a flipping of the funnel, where you show case studies ahead of the webinar. Before you even have the webinar that sells your product, people are already saying like, I have John Lee Dumas and Rick Mulray and people like that in this video. They're like, yeah, so we use Easy Webinar. We sell $15,000, and it sells the concept before they even come. And that's what I mean by authority seating. It's like this flipping of the funnel. You're not making the offer, you know, but they understand that there's going to be a product or something that they're going to be able to take advantage of, right? And so if you have case studies of students, absolutely, it would be awesome to put it in there in your funnel somewhere, whether that's on the thank you page, whether it's on the countdown page, just somewhere in that flow.
Oh my gosh, so brilliant.
One other thing I've done, I'll say this, is that sometimes on the thank you page, I'll put a podcast a link to an interview that I was on, right? So I was like, hey, if you want right now, I got this interview I was done on Entrepreneur on Fire. You can hear all about how we leverage webinars to kick butt or do this or that, right?
Yeah.
Or here's the Business Insider article where I talk about my favorite tips, or here's our entrepreneur,
Or
So
here's your Market Like a Nerd interview.
Or here's my market like it. Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
See what I did
Well, actually,
there.
there's a lot of good information in this one. This would be a good one to use, actually.
You should do it.
Yeah. I like
All
it's
right.
also video. Yeah. So
Love it. Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Like I said before, guys, seriously, you can't get better than this. Coming from the founder of Easy Webinar, I love it. Now, Casey, for our nerdpreneurs who are listening, who want to get an A+ for effort and are gonna take that extra step to look you up, can you make it a little easier on them? Where can they find you online, or what's the little giveaway that you have for us today?
Sure. Yeah. Well, a couple things. You can simply go to Easy Webinar if you want to learn more about the platform. You can find me on Facebook at Casey Zeman. I think I have a page called Casey S. Zeman. But my freebie for you guys is my webinar mini course.
Ooh.
And it's called webinarminicourse.com. And
Easy.
Yeah, it's very simple. Go to webinarminicourse.com. It'll share deeper tricks on not just, funnels of webinars, but more so even how to create a successful six-figure sales webinar. And then it will go into automated webinars, the power of automated webinars. And then it will talk about my 4 steps to the event launch blueprint. It's essentially a blueprint for launching with webinars. So that's what this teaches. It's been voted the best free webinar training online.
Ooh, yay!
So, I hope you enjoy it. Hope you go through it and feel free to comment on the page once you get there.
Sounds good. We sure will. All right, Nerdpreneur Nation, there you have it. Our webinar superhero has swooped in to save the day. To grab Casey's mini course, head on over to webinarminicourse.com. And if you guys are, in the car, can't remember the link, whatever, we'll have the link up there on the show notes for you as well, okay? But webinarminicourse.com, head on over there and grab it right now.
Yes.
Nice pacifier. Love it.
Thanks.
Still with the pacifier. All right.
Still with the pacifier.
Thank you so much, Casey, for being here. We really, really appreciate it.
Of course, Amanda. It was my pleasure. I love talking to fellow nerds about this stuff, so it's fun.
Nice. And thank you guys for being here and listening. We hope you learned a lot. We can't wait to hear where these tips take you, and we'll catch you next time on Market Like a Nerd. Have a nerd-tastic day, guys. Bye.
Bye.